I can hear the clock for the first time.
Hello, everyone. I am Mustard's human employee, name undisclosed, and I am being joined here with.
Yael, Hayem.
How are you doing today?
Good, thank you so much.
Of course, you are the first video interview that we've done for Music Shelf, so that's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So that's a high honor. So I'm excited to share these out. Mustard and I are excited to share
It is
these
a
out.
high honor for me as well.
Yeah. So how are you doing today? Before we begin.
I'm doing good. I just played a show in New York with my band. So we just got back. We had like a 5-hour bus ride yesterday. So it's been fun. I
Been
enjoy
fun.
it. Yeah.
How was the drive? Was it one of like a
Oh, it was
tedious
like
drive
I
or?
I think those experiences are honestly so funny. Um And I mean, it was just a really good time overall, like the bus ride and then getting there and hanging out with the artist that I was playing with, Ava McCoy, who also is like a Berkeley alum.
Oh, cool.
And yeah, I think it gave us like a little bit of a taste for how life on the road is. Um, so it was a lot of fun. I think it can be very draining if you do it extensively, though.
Excessively, yeah, no, definitely. Was this one of your like? Do you travel often or just like every now and then?
Um, yeah, because it's been hard with school to kind of try to like schedule and plan these like excursions.
Yeah.
So we've been doing most shows in Boston, and because like every member of the band is also based in Boston, but yeah, I would love to plan more shows
Well,
like on tour and stuff maybe this summer. So
that would be awesome. Hopefully, yeah, hopefully after you're done with classes and everything like that.
right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So I guess we'll start off with when what was your first connection with music?
Okay, so there are so many. I also really didn't grow up in a musical family at all. So my mom had been like putting on the Beatles when I was a kid, but I would say I pretty much discovered music on an iPod as like a preteen. And
Okay.
I would say like a core memory was Lana Del Rey's Ultraviolence. Um, and I think, like, music was kind of my way as a kid of really connecting because
Mhm.
I felt very lonely, and I just remember, like, listening to that album in, like, the corner of, like, the classroom feeling like such an outsider, and I was so angsty, and I was like, "Ah, she understands me." But I've been drawn to, like, very, I guess, dark, haunting music like that ever since just because it's been such a big part of my childhood.
Big part of your childhood. Yes, there's just something about music where you can like escape to and find something within the lyrics. And I went through, or Mustard and I went through a phase like that. I listened to a lot of hymn. I don't know if you
Ooh.
know like Viva La Bam or anything like that, back like
No, I
old
don't.
MTVs. Okay. Him
Right.
was like very emo, very sad, depressing
Ooh.
stuff. But
Right.
yeah, you find those artists too, and it was Lana Ray for you.
Yeah, 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 and also, like, yeah, him, that's crazy. I feel like those artists kind of, like, strike a chord that no one else does because they're your, like, first experience with something really authentic, and especially if you're struggling as a kid, you're like, "Ah, that person gets me."
That's true. Yeah, yeah. It was either
Mhm.
like rap or like metal for me, for Mustard and I.
Oh, wow.
But and then Mustard and I we were trying to do some research and we saw that like Fiona Apple and Jeff Buckley were also some of your influences.
Yeah.
How could you explain more and share more about that?
Yeah, so I think both of them are really good at taking risks. Both just in their like vocal delivery and also the way that their songs have these insane twists and turns in terms of tempo, in terms of chord changes, and they're just kind of unhinged. And I really love that. I resonate with that. I think they have this like intense rage and sorrow and hope that they express in their lyricism and their voice. And I love that kind of stuff. It feels like an emotional roller coaster.
An emotional roller coaster. Okay, Mustard is asking a question. They're wondering if like if is that like a common thing with humans, like the inside rage wanting to get out?
Yeah, I think so. I think any song that kind of expresses insanity is just so refreshing because I think art is kind of designed to, shed skin and to kind of show humans what they're expressing outwardly, what people are feeling internally. So, things that are able to be that intense really just speak to like the inner turmoil that
The
is
inner
going on
turmoil.
inside everyone's brains.
Yeah. Yeah, because
So,
Mustard's observed, like they've observed humans and they try to like piece them together and figure them out by like facial expressions, but they're also like a condiment, so they can't really see
right,
facial
right.
expressions. So, music helps with that. Do
There's
you
too
have
much
any?
sauce in the bottle.
Huh?
There's too much sauce in the bottle.
There is too much sauce in the bottle. There's too much sauce. When it comes to Fiona Apple and Jeff Buckley, are there like any songs or albums off the top of your head that you would recommend humans to
Oh,
listen
yeah.
to?
Um, When the Pawn by Fiona Apple, I think it's her second album. That one is so good. All of them are amazing. Like both of those artists. Jeff Buckley tragically died, pretty early on in his career, but I think both of them just were strong regardless of the timeline in their music career.
Mm,
And I think both of them also like knew themselves from the beginning, which is that's a difficult thing to just like know your voice and like your artistry and stay consistent.
absolutely, yeah. It at least takes 2, 3 albums in to find your sound. If
Yeah.
just as a listener, it feels like for artists.
Right. And Fiona Apple, I think, started making music when she was 18, or I think she started writing songs when she was 14. And her songs have sounded consistently like cohesive, I guess, from like age 18 to 40.
That's impressive that she keep doing that.
Right.
Yeah. And then speaking of songwriting, you started songwriting during the COVID-19 pandemic. Could you share more about what inspired you to begin songwriting?
I think it was honestly boredom. um, and being really emotionally charged. So I began writing songs for fun because I had picked up a guitar during my gap year. I
Mhm.
had bought like this $80 guitar and I told myself that I was going to learn how to play it. And then as I was playing it, I started writing my own songs.
Oh, nice.
And like learning the basic chords because I had written poems in high school
Mhm.
and loved music, but I never really merged the two before and didn't never considered myself doing it. I think I had one notebook as like an 11-year-old and it said songs on it, and I wrote one song. It was called Winter, and I wrote like leaves change, and that was the only line I wrote in the entire notebook. So
That
yeah, I
always
think it was
says a
just
lot.
always something that, like, expressed what I wanted to do as a kid. Um, and then I met my producer that I currently work with now, his name is Mike. I met him after getting rejected from an a cappella club at school. So, um, I still think about that and laugh, and we got along immediately, and he really believed in me and saw what I was going for, and like all these people that I've met have really just solidified in my brain that like this is the kind of community I want to surround myself with because
Mhm.
musicians are just the right amount of wacky and the right amount of serious, and they're all really intentional people, and I've clicked with pretty much every single one I've met.
Yeah, that's awesome. So even though that a cappella group didn't go as you wanted, you still
Yeah.
found that other path and it brought you to all this. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. And
Rejection leads to redirection.
that's absolutely 100% agree on that. And then you said the musicians, they're intentional and serious but goofy and all that. And I think I Mustard would definitely agree with that too.
Right. Mustard
And the
definitely exhibits those qualities.
Mustard tries, they just try their best to observe humans as much as possible and not necessarily like because they've learned about like conforming and they consider like ketchup a conformist. They don't want to like speak
Oh,
too
right,
too badly about ketchup,
right.
even though it's complicated. Um,
Red is a
but
basic color.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, but yeah, no, mustard tries. They're grateful to you for allowing a condiment to interview you like this,
right.
for the website.
Before
Uh,
AI does.
yeah, and mustard's still trying to figure out AI and how that all works.
Hmm.
And then, what is your songwriting process like once you get the idea going?
Um, so it always varies, which I think is what most people say, but um, I usually have lyrics around first because that's kind of just what comes naturally to me. Um, and then I usually scribble down like a sort of word vomit essay
Mhm.
about a specific idea and then format it into specific ideas for like verses and choruses and bridges. And then I'll have a guitar or a melody in mind, and then I'll sort of write a melody and then rewrite the lyrics to match that specific melody.
Oh,
Um,
cool, cool.
yeah, but it always comes out in pieces
Hmm.
because I have difficulty writing good songs in one sitting. I've been able to do it like a few times, but usually it takes like a couple days or months or
Yeah,
weeks or whatever.
just when that
Um,
inspiration or whatever it is strikes, as they say.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and then we spoke a little bit earlier about like Fiona Apple and Jeff Buckley and Lana
Mhm.
Del Rey. Would you still consider them like influences of yours, or has the influence shifted?
Oh, totally. I mean, I think my music is just subconsciously influenced from every single person I've listened to.
Hmm.
And I grew up listening to a lot of musical theater and show tunes. So I think that's where my um my love for Fiona Apple and Jeff Buckley and all those artists come from because
Hmm.
they kind of have like a very theatrical way of singing and a very theatrical way
Hmm.
of like expressing emotions through music. But I also think in times of like silence and in times of just plugging off and not trying to listen to all these influences is really where I can start listening to my own thoughts
Hmm.
and where inspiration strikes me the most because I think we're so used to like being on autopilot as
Yes.
people, and letting yourself be bored is so valuable when it comes to making art. So I try to learn how to break that like consumerist
Yeah.
mindset, I would say.
Yeah. Break the structure down, or the like you said, the consumerist. Like, okay, we want you to do this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then boredom can lead to great things. Uh,
Yeah.
Boredom can lead to
You're
great
like
things.
washing the dishes and then an idea pops up.
I'm pretty sure that's how Mustard and I came up with this whole idea, or something just very mundane. And then I don't know if you know this, but this whole music shelf and all this started with as a TikTok, and then like it grew into this website now and everything.
Oh,
But
wow.
all because of boredom. So,
Right.
but yeah, so you do things in pieces rather than all at once.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
would say so. I also really appreciate songs that have very different sounding sections.
Hmm.
So I think having some time to sort of do those sections individually gives you more space for creativity and originality within those like different sections of a song. So it feels more like a real experience rather than just like the same thing
Yeah.
straight through the whole
Yeah.
time.
Yeah. Yeah. Rather than the same, like, because a lot of like stuff on the radio follows a specific formula, and
Yeah, the
break
four
break
chord structure.
yeah, breaking away from that. And then you mentioned musical theater and show tunes. Do you still listen to musical theater and show tunes? Did you like grow up in theater?
Yeah, I was a theater kid. I really loved the kind of alt rock musical theater albums. There's one I love called Spring Awakening.
Oh yeah, yeah, I know that one.
You know that one. And then Hades Town is like the most recent. That was Anna East Mitchell's is music.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And I love that artist. She's one of the best singer-songwriters out right now. And I think she's nominated for like a few Grammys this year in like a very niche category.
Oh,
But
that's awesome.
I love shows that don't necessarily follow like the traditional musical theater type sound that are more alternative. Um, but I love how each song is very complex in its own way.
Yeah, yeah. Because I remember, was it? There's another show called like Urinetown, which just the
Mm.
name alone like hooks you in because you're like,
Yeah,
should I be disgusted or should I be intrigued? But
right.
yeah, so rather than going off the beaten path, then the alternative. Um, I think for sure say yeah, because I got my minor in theater, so I also have like
Oh,
a
cool.
theater influence and
Yeah,
everything. So that's I figured you'd follow up and ask about that
right.
too.
Yeah,
Uh,
I'm also technically minoring in theater, but it's so fun. I think everyone should do theater at some point because it really gets you in touch with humanity in a very unique way, and also it can be very healing to kind of just be forced to step out of your comfort zone.
Definitely, definitely. The do you do like a lot of like improv exercises that help get you out of the comfort zone?
Yeah, I mean, I used to when I was in high school and like still actively doing theater.
Mhm.
Um, I was in a very intense theater company in high school that really emphasized like, get up there and be as weird as possible. So I really appreciated that because everyone kind of bonded over a place of insanity.
Yeah, which definitely theater definitely is and embraces and welcomes.
Yeah.
And then we were doing some more research too, Mustard and I, and we forgot what playlist it is exactly off the top of my head, but Four Winds by Bright Eyes was a song that you enjoy. Could you just share more about this? Because Mustard went through like a big Bright Eye phase in high school. So
Oh wow, in high school.
yeah,
They were ahead of their time. They were
they were.
mature.
They were.
Wow. The angsty mustard in the corner of the room as
Yep.
the outcast. I totally see that as a
Mhm.
vision.
Yeah.
Um, so I love the song's hyper specific lyricism. Because I also kind of resonate with that. I think my lyricism is pretty hyper specific, but it also shares crazy insight into humans' relationship with tradition and religion. And like it's a very philosophical song. And I think lyrics like that are very hard to come by just in terms of like, I don't know, singers generally.
Sure.
And concepts with such depth are pretty rare. So, and also like the words are pretty punchy and satisfying against that specific melody. So,
Definitely.
yeah.
Yeah.
The violin also goes hard.
Yes, I love the violin usage in that song, or like in any song really.
Right.
Can't go wrong with violin. And then it was, correct us if we're wrong, but it was in late 2001 that saw the release of, was it your debut single or first single, Canary in a Coal
Mhm.
Mine?
Yeah.
Could you share more about this? Share more about Canary in a Coal Mine with us?
Yeah. So, I had written a bunch of songs that first summer that I was writing songs, and that was the only one that I really liked and saw something in. And I came into school wanting to produce a song with someone, and that was the first one that I had ever made. But the actual metaphor in the song speaks to a character's shame for not recognizing the warning signs of a toxic relationship. Um, the same way that when a canary in a coal mine dies, the miners know to get out of there. So, yeah, I was inspired by personal experience, and then also I oddly enough was thinking about the toxic relationship that happens between Nicole Kidman and her husband. And have you seen the show Big Little Lies?
I've seen like the first, I think like 2 or 3 episodes. I was like in one of the HBO shows I wanted to finish but never got to finish. But I
Right.
think I know. Spoiler alert, but doesn't like her husband die or something like that, or
Yeah.
one of the husbands die in that show.
Yeah. They find out that he has like some like interpersonal relation to one of the other moms, and then one of the moms like accidentally like kills him or something at the end of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I that was the first time I had seen a show that was so had like such a jarring depiction of a really toxic, abusive relationship, and it just kind of stuck in my head when I was writing the song, like through the perspective of the woman in that relationship.
That's awesome that you can gain inspiration from that. I'm pretty sure they had a season 2 as well for that show.
Yeah.
I heard season 2 wasn't as good, but I
No.
haven't seen it. But no, that's awesome though, where you can gain inspiration from, things from other media, um,
Right. It's
and
it's so
personal
good
experience.
because it just the images I think really stick in your brain. And so then you're able to draw written images through visual images, if that
Mhm.
makes sense.
No, that makes sense. And I would say HBO does a great job of those visual images in their shows.
Mhm.
Like even, I don't know if you play video games at all, but like The Last of Us that just came out,
Mm.
the
Yeah,
visuals for that, they stick with you just like they did in the video game
right.
for sure.
Grand
Um,
Theft Auto definitely also imprint on my brain. The way that you run people over with cars,
yeah.
kind of traumatizing.
Yes, Grand Theft Auto is a favorite of mine. Mustard hasn't played it yet, but yeah, definitely how you run, and then the music too. The music too in those games is
Oh,
phenomenal.
yeah.
The
Yeah,
music,
Mustard would drive a car like a maniac.
absolutely, absolutely. Mustard
So
has no permit or anything like that
right.
just yet. And then after Canary in a Coal Mine, it was Recovery Song that you came out with next, or are we
Mhm.
jumping ahead?
No, that was the second one, yeah.
That was the next one. Could you elaborate more on the concept of Recovery Song?
Yeah, so I kind of sat down and started writing that song and wrote it all completely in one sitting, and I think that's been one of the only times that that's successfully happened for me. But, I've always been someone who's, like, hyper aware of the concept of time, and I think that song was the lyric "Time's fragile, but what's the difference if I waste it?" is also just, um, me perceiving things with this sense of urgency as if I'm gonna die tomorrow, which is probably more of a curse than a blessing. But anyway, I that song was just silly, and then it ended up turning into sort of like a catharsis song of I'm gonna get out of this mental rut that I've put myself through.
Which is
Um,
what, yeah,
yeah.
which is important to get out of those ruts. When it comes to time, do you like being really early, or do you not care, or would you say like you're punctual with things?
Yeah, I always feel like I'm running out of it, um, which is I think a little bit of a downside to that, but, in terms of being, like, punctual, I don't know. I'm probably, like, 10 minutes late to everything, like every
Yeah.
other musician out
Mhm.
there, so
Yeah,
I don't know about that, but, I think we feel that any moment of silence or sheer boredom is wasted time in my generation, and, it's time that you could otherwise spend consuming something.
that's true.
So it's definitely a hard thing to sort of break is like, "Oh, I don't have to be doing something every second of every day."
That's true. Yes, mustard. We would. Yeah, I definitely say that with how you said your generation, just society in general is very like you have to be consuming something at all times, and
Yes.
you don't have to be consuming something like our phones, TikTok,
Right,
social media, like still all going to be there. We don't need
right.
to. Um, it's okay to step away. It's okay to step
Yeah,
away.
you're stalling and you whip out your phone. It's like you almost whip out your phone as like a way of signaling to other people that you're busy
Hmm.
or a way to signaling to other people that you have other priorities.
That's true.
Um, and I think it's so stupid.
Yeah.
Why can't we just sit?
Yeah. Sit. You know, make small talk, which I guess it still does happen. I'm personally like awful at small talk, but pull out a
I
book,
agree.
pull out a book.
Right,
Yeah, those things don't happen as much anymore, which is
right.
interesting. But I think the makers that be, whoever, you know, that's how they want it, because I think at the end of it, I don't know if you would agree with this. It's all about like profit in the end. So
Oh, totally, totally. And I think my generation is really starting to wake up to that and how it's all just like a scheme for money and like time is money now
yeah,
because they're kind of like monopolizing our time with these
yeah,
social media apps. So it is kind of opening when you realize like, oh, I'm making someone else profit from this by just like scrolling on
that's
this
true.
little what's the right word? Like a slot machine.
Yeah,
I feel like
yeah,
TikTok feels like a slot machine too, which is
it
why I've like
does.
been off
Yeah,
of it for a while, but
yeah,
it's
same.
the irony of being a creator, I think, is that you have to be on those apps and simultaneously they're kind of destroying your mental health
Absolutely.
or
Yeah,
like putting you into this space of constant comparison.
definitely. Yeah, Mustard, like I told you, started off on TikTok before Mustard's Mustard plug, and my mental health, it just became too much after a while. So feel a lot more
Right.
comfortable with the other ones.
Right.
But yeah,
Mustard was starting to turn green.
yeah, it was like one of those weird promotional things where like ketchup was purple that one time, mustard was turning
Right.
green.
Right. It's
Um,
like the white and gold dress that was like black and blue.
oh, yep, I remember that.
Right.
Yeah, it's fascinating, but but thankfully, Mustard would say too that there's more focus on mental health now than probably like a couple years ago. Like it's important to like take a mental health day. There's no shame
Totally.
in that.
Yeah. I think also it's a slippery slope because I think people take and Recovery Song also was written during a period of isolation. And I think it's very easy for people to see isolation as a form of like, oh, I'm going to take care of myself. Oh, if I just isolate myself and work on myself, then I'll be better. But I think we've become so hyper independent because of that and have not really emphasized the importance of having each other
That's
and
true.
surrounding yourself with community. So it's a weird, really weird time in history, to say the
It
least.
is. It is for sure. Would you say that some humans like find comfort in isolation, or is it one of those like we don't know what to do type of deals?
Right. I think the pandemic definitely exacerbated that, but also definitely just people feeling like I have a friend right now in college who's taking some time off to work on themselves,
Hmm.
but sometimes I feel like that whole concept is kind of counterintuitive because the more time you spend alone, the more you mentally exhaust yourself by like digging yourselves into a hole where you're just like thinking about your problems all the time. And I think there's a lot to learn from just getting out in the world and listening to other people and just taking on new experiences and surrounding yourself with people because it's kind of like giving your brain a massage.
That's
So I think I think we need to start bonding more in
start
person
bonding.
and
Yeah,
get this like screen out of our faces.
yeah, yeah. Because it's definitely possible. It's just a matter of finding a way to let us allow ourselves to do that, because these
Yeah.
things are they're so addicting on purpose.
Oh yeah. That's the other part of it. It's like my generation, I mean, I started using Instagram when I was 10, which was like way too young. And I know that so many other peers of mine had it at that age. And so it definitely alters your brain chemistry if you're using it as a child.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a hard thing to kind of recover from.
Yeah, it's like was it the Bo Burnham line, and I'm forgetting the song, but where you give the child the iPad at 2, and they're doing exactly what you want to do, because they then their brain chemistry changes from there, and they
Right.
end up doom scrolling or playing those god awful
Exactly.
mobile
Because
games.
it's just a habit.
Mhm. Yeah, and
Yeah, I remember hearing this story about this person I knew who saw this little kid on an airplane play with, like, this claw machine
mhm,
animated, video game and then tried to, like, physically reach for the claw on the screen, and so it just shows that there's no separation between, like, what people know to be reality and what people see on a screen.
yeah, yeah, and then they like added another layer to that with like virtual reality, where like you're physically in like a spot, but you're like
Yeah.
it's wild.
Right. Do you ever think about how our evolution is gonna be altered as a result of that? Like, how we're gonna adapt brain-wise to that aspect of what we're doing with our phones?
That's a good question. I think like because we live in the information age, everything is literally at our fingertips, but it's also a matter of, there's some people that you can tell them a fact like the sky is blue, but then they'll be like, how dare you tell me that? Like, no, that's wrong. The sky is like an off shade of white, and like
Mm,
they can't be wrong. But
mm.
no, that's interesting to see how, because there's like a lot of division and all that stuff too. So I don't know. That's a heavy question.
I think about that sometimes and I'm like, "Hmm, how are we gonna change?" But
Yeah.
who knows? Who's to say?
Yeah, that's true. Hopefully, for our benefit, we'll use the information that we have at our disposal and like use it for good rather than divisiveness and hate, which I guess kind of would lead to your next single, that you released last November. Where's the solution? Which had like a really incredible, powerful message to it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, what are some ways that you think humans could respond to traumatic events like you talked about in that single and that song?
Right. Yeah, I think I kind of just write songs about what I'm thinking about in the moment, and that song kind of just came to me, like, as a response to everything I was seeing about Roe v. Wade getting
Mhm,
overturned, and I think there had been, like, a recent shooting. I think that was, like, the Texas
mhm.
shooting that happened last year. I think that was a school shooting. I can't remember, but,
I believe so.
yeah, it was a really intense time, and I feel like also that song is pretty ambiguous, and I feel like my role in this whole conversation is to more just shed new ideas to people's
Mhm,
consciousness rather than kind of like provide them with answers,
mhm.
'cause I don't have answers. I'm a 20-year-old
Yeah,
in, like, the confines of the higher academia bubble.
yeah.
So, all I know is, that, like, the last time I felt like my generation specifically was united was for March for Our Lives, which happened, in March of 2020,
Mhm,
or I think it happened in January of 2020. This was right before the pandemic, and it was like a response to, recent school shootings, but I think ever since that specific protest, tragedy continues to play out, but instead of uniting in person and kind of facing things head on, people kind of just butt heads on
mhm.
Twitter and these
Yeah,
social media platforms and end up getting into like verbal violent discourse. And I think we should just, I think the only thing we can do besides try to like change the government because we can't is to unite physically, unite in the physical world and, um, take action because no one does that anymore,
yeah.
and I think Gen Z was also one of the generations that was way less likely to go out and vote this past year than any other generation. It's because, like, we're so non-confrontational,
Mhm.
and I think that's a result of isolating ourselves and being shielded by our phones, and yeah, it's kinda sad.
Yeah.
My songs recently have been very nihilistic, but I hope that this upcoming year they're gonna be a lot happier, or at least, like, a lot more uplifting in some way rather than just like, "Here are the problems with the world."
Yeah, no. No, I don't want to speak for all humans, but I think at some point those nihilistic thoughts are like at the forefront, and what you're thinking about. And you're right, like rather than uniting, everybody's on Twitter, sparring with each other. And it kind of feels like that's intentional too. Like that's what they like. Um, Mustard and I, we used to do like TV news in
Mhm.
college, and one thing they always said about like local television or like the local news was fear drives ratings. Like if it bleeds, it goes on air, and that's
Mhm.
all everything is really. It's just the worst, the
Right.
worst, the worst.
Right.
Um, you know, they want humans to be scared, which is
Mm.
unfortunate, rather than
Mhm.
coming up with a solution, rather than uniting. Because I think we talked about this earlier. It's all about profit in the end. So
Right. And I
just
think you're also way more likely to click on a negative headline than a positive one. No one
true,
likes to hear good news. I
true.
think most good news outlets probably die pretty quickly because people are drawn to tragedy. People are drawn to things that terrify them.
Hmm.
Um, and it's way more likely to gain traction, which then spirals us into like this sort of negative space where we don't even take action. We just kind of, it's like a cat video, like right next to um, a video of a school shooting, and we can't
Hmm.
really discern the difference because in the era of just like mindlessly consuming things, we end up blocking it into a separate part of our brain.
Yeah, we've become numb to a lot of things, which
Yeah.
is you know crazy to think about. Because once again, we're in the information age. We can go on our phones and like try to find a solution, try to think of something, try to unite. But whether or not that happens is like a whole other thing in itself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it's really scary. It's really risky to be positive in a negative space.
No,
No
yeah,
one wants to do that.
because that positivity can potentially be taken the wrong way, which then
Mhm.
leads to more negative. It's a whole cycle, whole cycle. And then the question that we had in mind, but I feel like we're kind of sorry, Mustard. We're already talking about this. Was society feels kind of, they pay me, so I need to I apologize.
Right.
Feels kind of, again, feels very dystopian, but we're kind of in like that negative feedback loop.
Yeah.
Um, and then I guess a question I would have is, what are some like techniques or ways that you think could get us as humans off our phones to
Right.
make them more aware of these things?
Yeah. I guess, like, check your screen time first. I think mine last year was, like, close to, like, 5 hours, and I was like, "What am I doing?" You know? What like, how much years have been wasted on a screen,
Yeah.
if you think about it like, the span of years in terms of just like, "Oh, I spend 5 hours a day," you know?
Yeah.
I think that's a huge reality check. It's I think it's also very easy to become nihilistic because we spread ourselves so thin with the amount of issues that we're consuming. Um, and because the internet like sheds light on the overwhelming amount of headlines and like causes that you can potentially invest your time in, um, we only have like so many hours of the day to actually care about things.
That's true.
Um, and I would say to prioritize like a handful of people and causes in your life and tend to them with action in any way you can. Because I think there is something to say of like, oh, you should care more about the people in your life and investing in that than doom scrolling,
Yeah,
because people don't really think of that, but I
that's
think
true.
we have to be doing a little bit more emotional labor than we're used to right now.
Yeah.
Um, Volunteering in the physical world too, I think is a something that is undervalued. Um, Not just donating to a GoFundMe from an Instagram link,
Yeah.
hugging people. So, yeah, and I think it's also very easy to be nihilistic because we're so self-absorbed and distrusting of other people, but I guess, like, that's a whole conversation because it's, like, also part of American culture to be like that, and also I think due to like the internet, um, and the personalized content that your phone feeds you. So yeah, there's I think a lot of things you could do to kind of simplify your life and to kind of just like hone in on a few things that are fulfilling.
That's good advice. Good advice. Rather than overconsume yourself with a million different things, just focus on the stuff that that matters to you.
Right.
And then you'll grow from that, and then you'll
Yes,
mentally probably feel better too.
right. It's so freeing to just choose a few things,
Mhm.
period. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, definitely. Like Mustard and I, we genuinely enjoy like reaching out to artists like yourselves and the independent music community, and trying to help the independent music community like grow and get to know each other. And they're hoping that Music Shelf will be able to do more with that. Eventually.
Right.
I don't know if it's going to happen, but I I want to Mustard and I we want to do like a virtual concert because we know not everybody
Ooh,
can be everywhere, but like a virtual thing through like Zoom or Teams, and you all set up like your own little gigs, and we all just support each other that way. That's been like a big
right.
goal of mine, a goal of ours. So we'll see if that happens. But yeah,
Yeah.
just community is so important.
Right. And you could give out like little samples of mustard if mustard is willing to sacrifice some of it itself.
Mustard would be willing to do that for
It
sure.
probably hurt a little to like sever off
But
an arm, but
yeah, yeah, they're used to being squeezed, but I think they're kind
wow,
of like kind of numb to it at this point too.
yeah. Just the same way that our phones numb us.
hmm Yeah, yeah, and there's and I guess I'll share this with you. This bottle is empty. This is
Mm,
a this is a prop mustard. So back when I used to like film on TikTok and everything, I would just randomly just travel with a bottle of mustard with me and be like, "Oh, hey, that's content. Let's make something." But that's like a
right.
whole nother discussion too, because like everything now is content, and like
Yeah.
not
Oh man.
everything needs to be content.
Oh man. It's like it's ridiculous. That's why I really value the few artists there are that really just care about not trying to monetize their art and just trying to gain recognition from people that also really care about the craft more than they care about like trying to make something go viral.
Yeah. Yeah, like personally, Mustard isn't like a big fan of Spotify because the artists aren't getting paid. You guys are getting paid
Yeah.
like pennies
Yeah.
when really like if you're on Bandcamp Friday rolls around, you get like everything from that purchase. So if you like your next single or whatever, you put that up on Bandcamp and you make it for like free, but somebody wanted to like pay you like $10 for it on Bandcamp Friday, you get that full $10. So it's like you make
Right.
so much
Right.
more just from that than but the streams and everything. It's just Spotify. It's more convenient, which is like good but bad at the same time.
Oh yeah. I think even it's like the statistic of that is like 1,000 streams is like $0.01 or
Yeah,
something
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, yeah. From an ethical point of view, I'm like, nah. Like they put their heart and souls into this song, this album. Like
Yeah.
they deserve to be paid more.
I'm
Um,
hoping there's some sort of renaissance at some point soon where because I think there's so many artists post pandemic because we've just all realized that it's become incredibly democratized. So I'm hoping that there's so many good artists that they just end up forming like coalitions of like we're gonna really pay these artists well and maybe like Laurel Canyon with like Joni Mitchell and all
so
those other
that'd be
people,
cool.
like a community where there's a bunch of artists that are collaborating and have their own solo things and they're getting paid well,
That would be
hopefully.
cool. That would be cool.
Manifesting.
Yeah, that would be cool. I think there is like some sort of union that's trying to do that for musicians. They're trying to make sure Spotify pays everybody properly. So
Right.
hopefully something comes out of that. But like
Right.
you said, a super group of some sorts, a coalition, that would be a
Yeah.
great way to go about it too.
Yeah, I think are they paying I don't know if this is true, but I think they're paying podcasters on Spotify a lot more than musicians. I could be wrong, but also I think musicians, like, generally are just a very easy target because I think we are more naive in a lot of business ways,
Hmm.
um, because we're kind of just about the right brain side of what we're creating.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think there's like a whole history of artists being exploited since the beginning of time, or since at least the beginning of like recording studios and rights and all these different aspects of labels. And yeah, it is just very interesting how we've always kind of been like targeted by the big corporations.
Yeah. Yeah, musicians are more like pawns than anything. Unfortunately,
Right.
it feels like. And I think
Yeah.
you're right about the podcasters. I don't know if I forgot to fact check it afterwards, but I saw something where I think like was it Harry? Prince Harry got like a podcast deal from Spotify, but they haven't released like a single episode yet, and they got paid
Mm.
like millions for it. So people were like, if they can get paid millions, haven't even dropped anything yet musicians are putting songs on and everything on the daily. Where's the fairness in that? Like, where's the
No, it doesn't make sense.
no?
That definitely sounds like something they would do. I'm pretty sure, like, I don't know if it was just Joe Rogan being Joe Rogan or if it
Mhm.
was that he was getting paid so much more money, but Joni Mitchell took her songs off of Spotify, like, as kind of a protest for that. But then it sucks because now you can't listen to Joni Mitchell's songs on
That's
Spotify.
true. That's
So
true.
it's like, damn, I have to make a YouTube playlist. But
Yeah,
it's such an easy platform to use. It's the most popular.
yeah,
Um, so it is kind of annoying that's what it's come to. But I
yeah.
have faith.
I think I do too. I think something good will come out of all this. Hopefully, in a couple of years or sooner than that, we'll see.
Right.
Yeah, and then one of the couple last questions that I had was, what's next for you? Do you have anything planned in the future?
Yeah, I'm gonna keep playing shows in the Boston area. I think that's been such a fulfilling aspect of being an artist, especially here, is just like the vibrant music scene and the amount of friends I've been able to make through music has just been so heartwarming.
Hmm.
And there's so many artists at my school, Boston University. There's so many at Berkeley, so many at Northeastern, and it gives you a lot of hope for what's to come. And definitely putting out more songs. I'm in the process of I have like enough songs ready to make an album. I
Oh,
just
nice.
don't know when that would be released. I
Hmm.
would have to figure it out. I work with someone at my school that I make music videos with.
Oh, cool.
So we're going to be releasing more videos, and those are always so fun. I feel like creative projects with your friends are just some of the most fulfilling things you can be doing. So
Absolutely.
it's been a blast.
Yeah.
I really enjoy it.
Yeah. Are those videos gonna like end up on like your YouTube page in the future, or?
Yeah. Yeah, I've been posting on YouTube a lot lately just because I feel like it's the one social media platform that has a shelf life and it
Mhm.
just doesn't feel like you're being swallowed in a vacuum.
That's true.
So, because Instagram Reels and TikTok really feel that way.
Yeah.
Um, and I think YouTube is kind of more intentional. It's like you're going to it to look up a
Hmm.
specific artist, or you end up finding something on your algorithm that really appeals to you and you stick with it for like 4 to 20 minutes or however long the video is, and it leaves a lasting impact on you. I think the way that like 15-second videos really can't do.
That's true.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I love YouTube.
Yeah. No, YouTube is great. That's one of the reasons why Mustard and I started wanted to do video interviews this year too, because um, it's a great platform and people like watching things and listening to things, and I think listening and seeing the interview will add like another layer to it rather than just the email interviews, which Mustard usually does. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but their plan is like for this interview, for example, like they'll have your photo in like their artist section on the website, and then when
Mm-hmm.
they click on your photo, it will bring them to our YouTube interview, this interview that's on
Right.
YouTube. So
Yeah.
um,
They're so
we'll
fun, and I love watching like the other artists do YouTube interviews as well.
yeah, no, they're fun. So Mustard's going to try to get out of the comfort zone with these. So, and they thank you again for allowing us to speak to you today.
Yeah, of course. I really appreciated the condiment.
Yeah, no, Mustard tries to do what they can for the independent music community. Even though they spend most of their time just on a shelf next to other
Right.
condiments.
Or
Um,
bullying ketchup.
yeah, yeah, no, ketchup. That's like a whole nother diatribe right there. Ketchup.
Right.
Um, and then you were talking about how you're going to be doing more shows. How when it comes to shows, can somebody like reach out to you for tickets? Do they go to like a website? How would that
Right.
process work?
I typically post my announcements on my social media page, my Instagram mostly. I've like used Twitter on occasion, but I'm not really active on there. But I would say Instagram or I don't know, text me or something.
Okay,
Like
okay. No, that's awesome. Yeah, because yeah, Boston's a great area and they have a great music scene, and they're excited for what else is to come out of there this year.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Totally.
because I don't know. Do you like jazz? Oh, this is like the B movie meme. But do you
Right.
like do you
It
like
fits with the yellow.
yeah like the jazz scene in Boston is really good too.
Yeah. I
There's
think
some
that's also very Berkeley.
mhm,
Right.
yeah.
There's a lot of I love this band called Bed Sweater, and they're pretty rock, but they have a saxophone player,
Ooh,
and
nice.
it adds like a cool element of like rock jazz
Yes.
influence.
Yeah, no, saxophone's great. Last year I tried to teach myself saxophone. I got to get back on it. But because Mustard wanted to make like condiment jazz and like condiment ska,
Right.
which they still may this year. Hopefully, we'll see.
Right.
But yeah, no,
Wouldn't that ruin the instrument if you were to pour
yeah,
mustard
yeah,
in?
yeah. Actually, yeah, Mustard should rethink that. Then maybe not.
I guess
Yeah,
he can't help it.
no, he just loves the sax.
Right.
Yeah.
Love it so much you pour all your insides into it.
Yeah, they would sacrifice themselves for the art, which is kind of poetic.
Ah, wow. The only tangible way I've seen that be done.
And then their final question was, where can usually, I guess, yeah, where can they go, people go to listen to music?
Yeah, so you can go on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, hopefully inside a mustard bottle. So
That'd be cool. That'd be cool.
that's
Figure out
that's
a way.
the bonding with AI. We're gonna make content inside a mustard bottle.
Oof. I don't know if I'm like terrified of that idea, but I'm also like intrigued by it too. Like you open
Right.
up the cap, like, and then music comes out. Actually, that would be pretty cool.
Wait,
Ah,
that's sick.
huh?
That's sick.
Like you open up the cap, and then
Right.
hmm,
It's like
I'm not
that
an
thing from
engineer.
Harry Potter where you I, was it like the I think they were in like one of the common rooms at Hogwarts and they like open up this like dome and it starts blasting music.
I
They
think so.
immediately
Yeah, yeah,
retire.
yeah, yeah. Yeah. No, that
That
would
was
be.
a meme on Twitter at one point.
Yeah, we may be onto something here with this.
Exactly.
All right. Before we go, do you have any last words? Anything you'd like to say before we
I
end
don't
off?
think so. I can show you guys this spider that I have.
Oh, that's
This
cool.
spider baby. This is the I guess it would be like my slogan image.
Your slogan image. Did you make
Sure.
that?
I didn't make it. I actually got it at a pet store when I lived in Israel for a year. Because I saw it in a window and my friends told me, they were like, "That is you. You should get that." And I have no regrets because it's just so jarring in
It
a
is,
very
yeah.
charming way.
Yeah. It hooks you in and you're like, wait, why is that? It makes you stop and, want to look at it more and figure out more about the art and
It's
the construction.
intriguing.
Yeah, it is intriguing. Well, I think then we'll end it there. We thank you so much for joining us again,
Thank you
and
so much.
thank you for being the inaugural YouTube interview.
I'm so honored.
And then yeah, just we're very grateful and appreciative. That Mustard says that like about everything, but really they are grateful and appreciative. So yeah, thank you so much again.
Thank you.
All right, so this should hopefully be up. Actually, I'll stop recording now, and then.
All we used to do was scream